That smells delicious. Funny thing about ovens, they're a great place to cook, but I wouldn't want to live there. Hi, I'm John Pombier with the City of Mesa. Living in an oven may sound like a ridiculous statement, but if we lost our power for an extended period of time, would our homes become like ovens? We live in Arizona, home to some of the hottest places on Earth. Would we survive if we suddenly lost our air conditioners for a few days? According to emergency planners, that is a very real scenario. It's important to remember that in a disaster, local emergency resources will be overwhelmed. It may take days to respond to everyone that needs help. How we cope with the disaster depends on how well prepared we are. Today we are learning some tips on how to become self-reliant so we can survive in the heat if we have an extended power failure. Come with me outside so I can show you something that's definitely not cool. Wow, what do we have here? Cherry pie! And believe it or not, it actually smells good. This is a solar oven. It's designed to collect the energy of the heat from the sun and concentrate it so much that it can cook. This oven's been in the heat for over 20 minutes and its temperature reads over 250 degrees. Whoa, Nelly, that's hot. But let's think about it for a minute. The outside temperature is over 100 degrees. Let's see how this contraption works. The solar oven is made up of three basic parts: the reflectors, the black box, and the glass cover. The reflectors are designed to take the energy from the sun and concentrate it into the black box. The black walls are designed to absorb the heat, and the glass cover is designed to trap the heat inside the black box. Many of these same principles apply to your home. Take this house for example. See how the sun strikes the walls and the windows, allowing heat into the home? Kind of like that solar oven, but I'll get back to that. Obviously the walls allow less heat into the home than the windows do, but they do allow some. Now, when you consider these windows that are so good at letting heat in and so good at trapping it once it gets there, you might think windows are bad, right? Not so fast, my friends. I have a friend over at the Serine House, Yvonne Peterson, and the Serine House has been around a long time before we had air conditioners or even evaporative coolers.
Welcome to the Serine House. I'm Yvonne Peterson, and I was the historic site manager of this house museum for over 10 years. And I'd like to share some information with you about this house. It was built by a man named Joel Serine in 1896. He was one of the original settlers of Mesa and had to learn to adapt to this arid, dry climate. The Serines were very aware of the importance of ventilation and airflow when they designed and built this house. Every feature of this house has a function. For example, this wonderful wraparound porch shades the windows from the hot sun. Also, there are no screens on the windows. Screens can reduce airflow 50 to 90%, and ventilation was a high priority for them. Let's go in the house and look at some other features. Every room in this house has at least one exterior door and window. This allowed for a lot of cross ventilation and great airflow. Notice that there are transom windows above every door. Transom windows were placed high in the room to help remove heat buildup. They could also be left open when the doors were closed, and this allowed for continuous ventilation and airflow. There's one thing about the house that's different now, and that's the lack of vegetation. Our records show that after the house was built, they planted a lot of shrubs and trees all around the house to protect and shade it from the sun. Remember, the two reoccurring themes are block the sun and plenty of ventilation.
Okay, block the sun and get plenty of ventilation. That makes sense. Let me show you how this home is like our solar oven. We unintentionally create quite a few reflectors for our homes. We have the driveway, we have our sidewalks, we have the crushed granite. All of these reflectors increase the energy and heat within our home. Now these reflectors are nowhere near as efficient as our solar oven, but they do generate additional heat. And trust me, when it's 100 degrees outside, and it is 100 degrees outside, we need no additional heat in our home. Okay, here's the scenario. We just found out the electricity is going to be out for a few days, and we need to be able to survive in our homes. If you remember from the Serine House, we learned two basic principles of survival. One, block the sun, and two, get plenty of ventilation. Let's look around this house and see if there's anything that can help us out. This plywood is actually going to have 3 advantages for our home once I get it installed. As you can see, it will obviously block the sunlight from getting into our window. Secondly, remember those reflectors we talked about? This plywood will block the ground in front of our window also, dampening the effect of those reflectors and keeping our inside of our home cooler. Finally, once this is installed properly, we will also be able to open our windows. And if you remember, the Shrine House told us ventilation is important. Now, let's run inside and see what we can find in there to help keep our house cool. As you can see, I found a few things that most people should have in their home that can help us with our problem. As I finish tying down this sheet, you can see that it provides us with 3 advantages. First, it blocks the sunlight. Secondly, it will reduce the reflection from the rocks into our home. And finally, it allows for ventilation. Plus, this sheet gives us one additional advantage. We can wet it down and gain some of the advantages of evaporation. And trust me, we need all the advantages we can get. Almost all of us have aluminum foil in our home. Let's see how it can help us out with our problem. Aluminum foil can be applied to the inside or the outside of the window. Because it's such a great reflector, it's best to use it on the outside of the window before the heat gets inside our home. Now obviously, one problem with aluminum foil is you can't open the window without letting the sun in. However, there will be times when the sun's not on this window and the window can be opened. It's not the best solution, but it will work and it is better than nothing. However, it's probably not as good as the plywood or the sheet. We just gave you 3 examples of things you may have around your home that can help us with our problem. You may also have some things that work better. Just remember our 2 main principles: block the sun and ventilate. We talked about blocking the sun. Now let's talk about ventilation. To illustrate the importance of ventilation, I'm sitting here in my car with no air conditioning and the windows rolled up. Talk about 0 ventilation, and boy, am I roasting. In a car, that's easy to fix. Simply roll down the windows and add some airflow. Woo-hoo! That's much better. As you can see, adding ventilation to your car is easy. But in today's homes, things are a little bit different. Unlike the Shrine House, today's homes aren't built to maximize ventilation. They're built to keep air conditioning in. I've set up a little demonstration to teach you about ventilation. I'm going to fill this home with theatrical smoke, open the windows, and see what happens. This should show you how airflow works in today's modern homes. I think we're ready to go. Let's open up some windows and ventilate. Here's the scoop with ventilation. What works in the morning may not work in the afternoon because breezes change constantly throughout the day. If you've ever sat near a campfire, you may recall how the smoke would blow in one direction and then another. This is a great example of how quickly breezes change. Here's 2 tips. First, use the largest openings available. Second, remove any obstructions such as curtains or window screens because they can block a lot of air. You've witnessed today through the magic of time-lapse photography the importance of airflow. On a day like today, the air can be pushed through the back of your house and channeled through the front of your house to create that positive airflow. So, with a little help from Mother Nature and some proper channeling, you can make those warm days a little bit more comfortable. Even with our best efforts, our homes may remain unbearably hot. In these types of situations, you may be better off outside, surrounded by vegetation. But don't forget our 2 key principles. 1, stay out of the sun, and 2, get plenty of ventilation. I'm looking around this backyard to find some things that can help me stay cool. This covered patio provides shade. That's a great place to start. The next thing I notice is that we have grass that comes right up to the concrete. That helps us reduce the reflective heat we are worried about. Finally, you'll notice this patio is open on both ends. That provides the ventilation we also need. As I look around further, I see that the sun hits this wall in the morning and this wall in the afternoon. So this is going to be the warmest side of your home. On the other side, where the shade is going to be cooler. And when you don't have power and it's warm, you want to stay in the shade. So I would recommend that side of your home in the morning. I hope you're beginning to see there are many variables to consider. A place that might be good in the morning might not be as good in the afternoon. So sometimes you may be better off inside your house, and other times you may be better off outside under a shade tree, just like the one I'm standing under. Just remember 2 of our main things. You always want to stay out of the sun and get plenty of ventilation. Now let's go over some do's and don'ts. Do drink plenty of liquids, but avoid caffeine and alcohol as they lead to dehydration. Do take a proactive approach to the issue of living without air conditioning. Find out what works best for your situation. Do remember that certain segments of the population are more susceptible to extreme heat, such as the very young, the elderly, and those with special medical needs. Don't perform strenuous labor during the heat of the day. Don't get sunburned, as this raises your internal body temperature. Don't eat large protein-rich meals, as this increases your personal metabolic heat. We've talked about some tips for how to keep your house from getting too hot. Now let's talk about some tips for how to keep yourself cool. We're talking about the science of evaporation. Evaporation is nature's heat transfer system. As the water begins to leave my body, so does some of the heat. In this situation, water is definitely our friend. The City of Mesa's Utilities Department has planned for such a disaster.
The City of Mesa has measures in place to supply its customers with water even in an emergency situation such as an electrical outage by use of backup generators and pumps.
Some tips for keeping yourself cool may include wrapping yourself in a damp sheet, placing a damp towel around your head, and my personal favorite, my own misting system. Now that feels good. Swimming pools are a great way to stay cool. However, since your pool pumps run on electricity, make sure the water's clean before you get into it. Before we wrap up, let's talk to Assistant Fire Chief Gil Damiani. Chief Damiani is the emergency manager for the City of Mesa. Chief Damiani, we've told the citizens of Mesa that during a heat emergency, they should keep the doors and windows open to increase ventilation. What are some of the concerns they should have when they do this?
Obviously, John, that's a great question and a great comment, but during a heat emergency, security issues typically come up. People are leaving their windows open, their doors open, and it's something that the citizen themselves have to prioritize. What is the greater need? During the heat of the day, people are up and about. Leaving a window open and doors open would actually assist in cooling. As the sun comes down, it cools off during the night, during the evening hours. Consider, the fact that the criminal element may be out there, and that closing the door might be a more prudent thing to do, and closing windows as well.
Now let's say I've got a cabin up north and I just don't want to take the heat at all. What should I consider before I go heading up north?
Another excellent question. First of all, when we think about people moving, especially during emergencies, I get the visual of Houston, Texas in my mind. 14 lanes of traffic, it was essentially a parking lot. And so moving or evacuating may not be as easy as people think. If you do have to leave, have a go bag. Make sure that you take the personal belongings that you need that can sustain you for a while. And another thing that's very important is if there's a power outage or a heat emergency, there may not be fuel. So you need to have a full tank of gas to get to your destination, or you may not get there.
This sounds like a lot of work. Why can't the City of Mesa just do all of this for the average citizen?
Well, one of the things we're trying to highlight here is for families and individuals to become self-reliant. The city does have resources, but in times of heat emergencies or any other disaster for that matter, those resources are going to be very, very busy and compromised and possibly unable to assist in all areas. City services will be prioritized to the greatest need.
So as a citizen, I have some personal accountability, but the City of Mesa will try to help.
The city will do the best they can to assist the citizens, but for the most part, we are trying to get people to be self-reliant.
Thanks a lot, Chief. In this video, we show you some options about how to survive if we're without power for an extended period of time. We learned that 1, how to survive in and around your home. 2, the importance of avoiding or blocking the sun to keep the temperature down. And 3, that good ventilation greatly increases our comfort level. For more information on surviving power outages, as well as information on evacuations, 72-hour kit, and how you can help other people, please visit our website at www.mesaaz.gov/emergency and explore the helpful information available there.